Allegedly, don't gag order or sue me, Ryan Reynolds. Okay, I don't want to be involved in your drama. I'm just telling my audience what I was told. He goes into Blake Lively's trailer and they have an argument. All of the production assistants overheard the argument, okay? Now, what was at the root of that argument? We don't know, but we can assume it had something to do with what he saw in these dailies, what he read in the script. Who even knows what led him to even visit on this day? And the person says that from that day forward, he started involving himself, that he basically became a chaperone for her on set.
Blake Lively did not even read the book that the movie was based on.
Correct.
And we're not talking War and Peace. And then she wanted to, ixnayed all of the wardrobe choices, because when you're making a movie about a poor woman who's suffering from domestic violence, you want her to look like she has money.
Right.
That Blake said.
That's what she did.
She looks like she has money.
Yep.
And she's dressing in florals. And then she's going on this press tour, pushing her liquor line and her hair care line, because that's what women who are trying to escape with their lives are worried about.
He was there basically every day, involved in the projects, wanting to rewrite lines, and suddenly Ryan Reynolds was trying to wrangle this project from Justin Baldoni, okay? And that is when, and this person was a strong contact. I felt good receiving this information from another person who said that it was Ryan Reynolds who marched into WME, okay, which is Endeavor. It's also called Endeavor. It is the biggest talent agency in the world. Every celebrity is under there, from Taylor Swift to Justin Baldoni, and said,
and that's part of the point that Justin's team is making in kind of complying with what they're viewing as threats made on her behalf against Justin, is like, well, there's this financial consequence to everything in addition to the strike consequences too, right? So they filmed May to June, then shut down for the strike, and then they were down until January. But I think that the strike lifted in November, but then she had all these return to work provisions.
In fact, what he wants is a successful movie. He wants to protect the movie, and all through the text messages, you'll see over and over and over again him saying, I don't want to hurt her. I want to protect her. Let's give her what she wants. Let's help her. That's what he's doing.
My money is on Blake Lively being wrong. I think she is 100% wrong. This doesn't make him a good guy, doesn't make Justin Baldoni a great guy. Please do not think I'm a Justin Baldoni stan. I know nothing about him, and I hate 90% of Hollywood.
In Blake's first amended complaint, Blake changed what she alleges about what happened while filming the slow dance scene, now that the footage has been released for everyone to see. So what they're saying is, now that, Justin Baldoni shared the truth of what it looks like, they're no longer making the same claims. Previously, they said Miss Lively was filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Of course, Justin proved there was sound. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Miss Lively out of character as himself.
Introduction. It started the moment a set of confidential HR documents mysteriously found their way onto social media. One day, nobody had heard a whisper about behind-the-scenes drama on It Ends With Us. The next, online forums and entertainment blogs lit up with rumors that the film's director and co-star, Justin Baldoni, had been the subject of multiple formal complaints. These allegations were troubling. Claims of inappropriate behavior, a tense work environment, and insinuations that at least two actresses on set felt deeply uncomfortable around him. It seemed like a damning scenario for Baldoni. But in a dramatic twist, the story shifted within days, revealing a far more shocking possibility: that someone had leaked or even fabricated these HR records. All eyes fell on Blake Lively, Baldoni's high-profile co-star, who was engaged in a heated legal battle with him. Could she have orchestrated the leak to strengthen her accusations and bury Baldoni's reputation before he had a chance to speak? At first, these revelations shook Hollywood. Blake Lively was regarded as an industry darling, known for her charm and seemingly wholesome image. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni built a brand around sincerity, positivity, and progressive values. Nobody expected a scandal that would pit them against each other. Yet as the dust settled, it became clear that something was deeply wrong. Sony itself announced that no such HR complaints had ever been officially lodged. Various disclaimers from studio representatives and Baldoni's legal team cast immediate doubt on the validity of these leaked files. For a moment, the entire case seemed teetered on the brink of chaos, leaving fans, insiders, and the general public wondering if Blake had deliberately stepped over a line, one that might cost her everything. In this video, we're diving into the tangled web of accusations, leaked documents, counter-lawsuits, and broken trust that turned It Ends With Us into a Hollywood minefield. We'll explore how rumors morphed into lawsuits, how secret recordings and hush-hush HR forms ended up splashed all over social media, and why Justin Baldoni, once seeming on the verge of a career meltdown, might just be emerging stronger than ever. The story is dramatic, complicated, and filled with twists. It's also a vital cautionary tale about how a single rumor, especially one involving seemingly credible evidence, can ricochet through the entertainment world, destroying reputations and turning friends into adversaries, almost overnight. Section 1. Tensions on set. When production on It Ends With Us began, few anticipated that the set would be a pressure cooker of simmering resentments and creative power struggles. On the surface, everything seemed dreamy. Blake Lively, admired for her roles in romantic dramas, was stepping into a deeply emotional narrative. Justin Baldoni, famously compassionate in interviews and on social media, was both directing and co-starring. Early interviews hinted at a close-knit cast, supportive producers, and an eager fan base waiting for a beloved novel's adaptation to be brought to life. But from the start, there were subtle signs that not all was harmonious. Some said insiders whispered about disagreements over script changes. Blake, known for being meticulous and detail-oriented, wanted certain lines and scenes reworked. Justin, as the director, believed continuity mattered more than last-minute revisions. Minor friction is common on film sets, yet by the time the production was halfway through, people began noticing an odd chill in the air. One producer said both leads would often skip joint lunches or seem guarded around each other during rehearsals. Another rumor indicated that a big argument erupted off-camera when Blake felt disrespected over her notes being dismissed. By the time the film wrapped, speculation intensified. At the official NYC premiere in August 2024, fans saw a disquieting tableau. Blake arrived in a radiant gown, all smiles on the red carpet, doing interviews with a handful of co-stars and producers. Justin showed up too, but he seemed removed, posing for separate photos, speaking to the press only briefly, and, according to eyewitnesses, not even making direct eye contact with his leading lady. Even the tabloids picked up on it. Feud? Co-stars keep curious distance at big premiere, read one headline. People magazine noted that while they were contractually obligated to appear together for some promotional duties, they were never photographed in the same frame unless absolutely necessary. Fans took to social media, bombarding forums with theories that maybe the chemistry fizzled, or that they simply disliked each other. Little did the public know these uneasy glimpses were just the tip of the iceberg, the calm before the storm, if you will. Quiet rumors reached industry insiders. Some suggested that scripts had been leaked and certain scenes were changed without Justin's approval. Others claimed producers were exasperated by tense on-set discussions. It was a hush-hush story until it blew wide open months later, thanks to a bombshell that would rock Hollywood. Section 3. Justin's counterattack. Confronted with this massive hit to his reputation, Justin Baldoni wasted no time launching a firm counteroffensive. He'd spent years cultivating an image as a caring, socially conscious figure, someone who often spoke about respecting boundaries and championing women's stories. Now he was accused of behavior that contradicted his entire public persona. If he simply dismissed the allegations, people might see that as evasive. If he attacked them with no proof, it could appear defensive. Instead, Baldoni's approach was precise and methodical. He and his lawyer, Brian Friedman, demanded a thorough investigation into how these HR documents first appeared on social platforms. Friedman publicly pointed out inconsistencies in the file details, the blacked-out dates, incomplete complaint forms, and repeated language that sounded suspiciously generic. He wondered aloud whether the same person authored all the documents, simply reusing phrases for multiple complaints. This was a crucial clue in raising doubts about their authenticity. Justin then presented specific receipts contradicting some of the claims. For instance, one leaked complaint alleged that Justin spent hours every day alone with a certain actress behind closed doors, making lewd comments. Baldoni's proof showed that, on those specific filming days, he was attending group rehearsals or in open areas with multiple cast members. Additional footage from the set also revealed a positive, joking environment among cast and crew, rather than the tense, fearful one described in the leaked forms. Simultaneously, the rumor that at least 2 other actresses had complained about Justin fell apart when no one credible stepped forward to confirm it. No named witness, no co-star verifying the story. Nothing. It started to seem as though the 2 actresses might be as fictional as the supposedly official documents posted online. This cast an even harsher light on Blake Lively's amended complaint, which heavily leaned on the idea that others on set backed her experience. While all of this was happening, social media buzzed with theories. Some fans abruptly changed positions, switching from condemnation to sympathy. Baldoni's transparency in sharing his evidence and his insistence on verifying the facts looked far more convincing than the vague, redacted allegations. Then came the moment that escalated everything further. Justin decided to sue the New York Times for $250 million over a story that, in his opinion, had magnified Blake's claims without properly investigating his side. By doing this, he threw open the doors to more scrutiny, boldly displaying an attitude of, "I have nothing to hide." It was a high-stakes risk, but it turned public opinion significantly in his favor. Few people would invite that level of scrutiny if they weren't sure the truth backed them up. Section 4. The media and industry fallout media outlets, initially thrilled by the salacious narrative of a major star accusing her co-star and director of misconduct, quickly found themselves on shaky ground. They had published the leaked HR documents as if they were genuine revelations. Now, with Sony refuting the existence of any such records, those same outlets faced a choice: stand by a story that no longer seemed credible, or pivot and investigate potential foul play by Lively's team. The most prominent coverage came from the New York Times, which had run an investigative piece exploring the allegations against Baldoni. They used interviews from unnamed sources, including individuals allegedly close to Blake Lively, to paint Baldoni as an emotionally manipulative figure. The article quoted bits of what it called corporate HR forms, aligning them with the original leaks. Predictably, Baldoni's legal team saw this as blatant journalistic negligence. Soon after, they announced a $250 million defamation lawsuit against the paper, accusing them of fueling a coordinated smear campaign instead of doing their due diligence. Simultaneously, entertainment reporters from other outlets started to distance themselves from the story. Many quietly edited or retracted earlier articles that had relied on the questionable Sony leaks. A few media personalities expressed regrets on social media for having jumped to conclusions. However, the lasting impact was already there. A huge portion of the public had internalized the idea that Justin Baldoni was somehow at fault. Reversing that impression would take more than a couple of retractions. It was precisely what Blake Lively might have counted on when the documents first surfaced, stoking enough public outrage that her narrative became the default assumption. Meanwhile, the behind-the-scenes talk in Hollywood grew increasingly uneasy. Producers and executives began to wonder if they could safely hire Blake Lively without risking a similar PR nightmare. Some quietly pondered whether they could trust a star who might be willing to leak or doctor sensitive documents for personal gain. The entertainment industry is famously cautious. Nobody wants to bring on an actor or actress who could implode a production's reputation. Even Blake's appearances with her husband, Ryan Reynolds, drew scrutiny. They showed up at a big event for Saturday Night Live's anniversary, and a flippant joke by Ryan about drama at home only served to heighten awareness of the controversy. Critics deemed it tone-deaf, especially given the seriousness of claims about hostility and improper conduct. Some felt it trivialized the entire matter, casting doubt on the sincerity of her allegations. By the end of this period, it was clear that media support for Blake Lively was not as unanimous as it had been. The cracks were showing, and Justin Baldoni seized every opportunity to amplify them, often providing clear, tangible facts and first-hand accounts that contradicted many of Blake's claims. Public sentiment, once sharply skewed against him, started leaning toward the possibility that he was the genuine victim in a deceitful campaign. Section 5. The Pattern of Deception. As Justin's evidence mounted, people began noticing a pattern in how new accusations would surface against him. Almost every time Baldoni released factual counter-evidence, like behind-the-scenes clips, official shooting schedules, or testimonies from crew members, some fresh leak would appear. In one instance, the day Justin posted said audio proving a friendly, lighthearted conversation with Blake, disproving her account of a harassing remark, yet another snippet emerged, a voice recording of Justin apologizing. It sounded incriminating until lawyers explained it was about him losing his temper over a script edit. He was acknowledging that he'd been impatient with Blake creatively, not admitting to any serious wrongdoing. This tactic gradually lost its impact. The public started to see that each new wave of leaks looked more and more like a preemptive strike. As soon as Baldoni provided exonerating proof, another out-of-context rumor or piece of audio appeared, twisting a mundane exchange into something sinister. The media, initially hungry for sensational angles, grew cautious about championing every new piece of evidence when so much of it turned out to be misleading. Then came the ultimate fiasco. Multiple people in Blake's circle, particularly a publicist rumored to be her close associate, were accused of planting negative stories about Baldoni as early as mid-2023, before the film had even wrapped production. These stories claimed that several women on set felt unsafe. They offered no names, no direct quotes, and no official documents. Still, the rumor traveled quickly. When the so-called HR forms eventually materialized, it was as though the seed planted months earlier had finally sprouted into a fully formed scandal. But the timing was all too perfect and, in retrospect, suspiciously orchestrated. Legal experts weighed in on whether releasing confidential documents, especially if they're faked, could constitute evidence tampering and defamation. Some went so far as to suggest that if those documents were forged or intentionally taken from a private HR archive, the culprit could face criminal charges. Such speculation put Blake Lively's legal team in the hot seat. While they denied any direct involvement in leaking the forms, it didn't erase the suspicious circumstances. Once an actor's credibility is tarnished, it's tough to restore. The more these questionable leaks popped up, the more they seemed to reflect poorly on Lively's integrity. Section 6. Power Dynamics. Shift for months, it seemed like Blake Lively held the upper hand in this feud. Public sentiment favored her from the start, a famous actress speaking out against alleged mistreatment, a beloved figure in the rom-com world who rarely found herself mired in scandal. But Justin Baldoni's disciplined strategy, methodically unveiling contradictory evidence, suing for defamation, and not shying away from public confrontation, altered the balance. He came across as a man with nothing to hide. Lively, by contrast, appeared more and more secretive, even desperate, as each new leak emerged only to collapse under scrutiny. Executives at major studios took notice. Whispers in Hollywood claimed that new projects Blake had been in talks for were put on hold. One rumored romantic action film quietly chose another leading actress. Reps for the producers cited scheduling conflicts. But insiders wondered if the real reason was that her involvement would invite negative press. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni found surprising allies among producers who respected his willingness to stand up for himself. They saw him as someone determined to protect his name and not roll over when faced with unverified allegations. Additional friction arose when Baldoni launched a $400 million countersuit accusing Blake and her husband Ryan Reynolds of defamation and civil extortion. That figure was eye-popping, even by Hollywood standards. It underscored Baldoni's assertion that Lively, with or without Ryan's help, had been trying to coerce him behind the scenes, maybe implying that if he didn't capitulate to certain demands, these complaints and recordings would go public. Normally, countersuits of this magnitude might be viewed with skepticism, but by this point, Justin had shown enough evidence of questionable leaks to lend credibility to the claim that something systematic was happening behind closed doors. The shift was palpable. Where once the narrative labeled him a manipulative star using his power against a vulnerable co-star, Justin now came across like the professional taking a stand against an elaborate deception. Blake's camp attempted to pivot, issuing statements that Justin was simply performing a publicity stunt, but the tide had already turned. Each attempt to paint him as unhinged only served to highlight the pattern of strategic, often out-of-context disclosures emanating from Lively's side. Section 7. Motives and Backfired Plans. What could possibly drive such drastic measures? It's a question Hollywood insiders debated in private gatherings and on social media forums. One theory suggests that while Blake Lively signed on as the star of It Ends With Us, she quickly grew dissatisfied with how the project was shaping up and how much control Justin Baldoni, as director, had. She might have wanted more sway over the movie's tone, narrative pacing, or how her character was portrayed. According to this speculation, once the film wrapped, she began seeing press reactions to early test screenings that weren't as glowing as she'd hoped. If the final product underperformed, perhaps she feared it would reflect poorly on her. In that sense, stirring up a controversy over behind-the-scenes difficulties might have given her a scapegoat. If It Ends With Us bombed, Lively's career path could be protected by the narrative that she was stifled by a problematic director and environment. Or, if the film succeeded, she could still emerge as the hero who overcame adversity. This is pure conjecture, of course, but it's a line of thinking circulated by some close observers. Another possibility is that personal animosity escalated to the point of no return. Once you label someone as harassing or unsafe, the stigma is powerful. If Blake believed her own concerns were dismissed, she might have felt justified in going nuclear, assembling any evidence or pseudo-evidence that supported her story. The problem is that going nuclear can backfire spectacularly if the evidence doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Instead of burying Justin Baldoni, she ended up undermining her own credibility. Real, verifiable proof of wrongdoing never materialized, and time after time, Justin's factual counterpoints chipped away at her accusations. In the end, the HR leak that seemed intended as a fatal blow became the smoking gun that exposed a coordinated smear campaign. The hype around multiple women stepping forward fizzled because none of those women stepped forward publicly. Sony's explicit denial of any genuine HR complaints cast the entire fiasco in a dubious light. Far from delivering a knockout, the scheme tarnished Blake's trustworthiness. It boosted Baldoni's stance. If the evidence against him were legitimate, would it need to be leaked in such a suspicious way? Section 8. Conclusion. From the first hint of tension on the It Ends With Us, set to the explosive allegations that threatened Justin Baldoni's career, this saga has been a roller coaster of backstage drama, legal showdowns, and shattered reputations. What seemed like a straightforward misconduct story morphed into a labyrinth of forged documents, strategic leaks, and public image manipulation. In a matter of months, Blake Lively's carefully curated Hollywood persona went from unimpeachable to questionable. The actress who once appeared to have unassailable charm is now under the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Potential document tampering, suspiciously timed audio clips, and an overall campaign that veers dangerously close to defamation. Meanwhile, the man she set out to accuse has turned the tables by reinforcing his side with factual evidence and unwavering transparency. So what does this all mean for Hollywood and for viewers who followed these stars for years? In many ways, it's a sobering reminder of how easily reputations can shift in an industry fueled by whispers and press coverage. A single leak, no matter how shaky, can momentarily ruin a person's name if it arrives at the perfect time and in the perfect format. Yet, as this case shows, such a tactic can implode if the facts don't line up. The truth has a habit of surfacing, especially when challenged by someone determined to defend themselves in full public view. In the end, the scandal turned out to be more revealing about Lively's methods than about any genuine misdeeds by Baldoni. While the legal process is ongoing, with countersuits and defamation claims still to be resolved, one outcome seems fairly certain. Justin Baldoni has salvaged, if not strengthened, his public standing. By addressing each allegation head-on with evidence and by taking legal action against what he views as slanderous media coverage, he's demonstrated a level of resolve and honesty that resonates with many in the audience. Blake Lively, conversely, is grappling with a tarnished public image, facing distrust from studios that worry she could drag them into a similar fiasco. Perhaps the biggest lesson here is a timeless one. In a world saturated by sensational headlines and viral social media posts, authenticity still carries weight. A well-orchestrated smear might gain temporary traction, but once it's exposed, the fallout for the instigator can be catastrophic. And so we close this chapter of the Baldoni-Lively battle for now. The legal matters will continue to unfold, and the final verdicts may take months or even years. Both sides have fortunes and reputations at stake, and neither is likely to walk away unscathed. Yet, if there's one takeaway, it's this: illusions crumble under real scrutiny. No matter how big a star you are, if the evidence backing your claims is tenuous, or worse, fabricated, your attempt to destroy someone else's career could end up destroying your own. That's the lasting legacy of this whirlwind story. A cautionary tale about how quickly the scales of public opinion can tip, and how a single scandal can overshadow years of goodwill in an industry that trades on image above all else. Think about that next time another leak promises to expose some scandal. Ask yourself who stands to gain, and does the evidence truly hold up? Because in Hollywood, as in life, the biggest revelations are often about the person behind the leak rather than the target of the accusations. In this case, the alleged wrongdoing came full circle, shining a light back on the accuser's credibility and leaving us with a final resounding message. The truth usually wins out, even in a business built on make-believe.